Welcome to Boldly, the podcast from Shift Ed. Shift Ed is a triad-based nonprofit on a mission to boldly accelerate student potential from classroom to career. Each week, you'll hear about our work through the eyes of our team members, community partners, and the scholars who participate in our programs. I'm your host, Holly West Pauley, the Director of Communications and Marketing for Shift Ed. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into one of the tools Shift Ed uses to help students explore possible careers. It's called YouScience Brightpath. Joining me are our Manager of Primary School Programs, Chris Huntley, and Amy Bradley, Senior Territory Manager for YouScience. Welcome, everyone. Can you each share a little bit about yourselves with our listeners?
So my role is primarily working with our students in elementary school and all the way up through high school, of course, middle school in the middle, and just exposing them to career and technical education options, as well as exposure to different career paths, as well as STEM work throughout my programs.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Bradley, Senior Territory Manager with YouScience. I've been with the company for almost 10 years and actually live here in North Carolina. Happy to join you guys today. And I just want to mention the reason I do what I do is so that your students in Guilford County, in the Triad, and actually throughout our country, that every student knows that they have a talent, they have potential, and then they have a future. It's why I've been with the company. It's my personal mission and why I've stayed with the company now for about 10 years.
Awesome. Well, we are very familiar with YouScience Brightpath here at Shift Ed, but for folks who are not familiar with the program, Amy, can you tell us a little bit about it and why it was created?
Yeah, absolutely. So Brightpath was created really to be an end-to-end product so that you have all that you need in one place with Brightpath. The solution we're solving for is really to partner with you guys to stop the widening skills gap in our country. And you can really see that skills gap when you look at some data. So interestingly enough, we're graduating more high school students than ever. And then there's a big disconnect. When you ask them, what do you want to do next? What do you want to be when you grow up? That answer is really tough for so many of our young people. And then you can see it reflected in numbers, like our college graduates, 40% of them doing jobs that did not require that 4-year degree. And then students enrolling in college and looking at that number, and 54% of them actually dropping out before they received that 4-year degree. So you can see this widening skills gap, and we work with local businesses and industry and chamber, and when you speak with them, they're having a hard time filling the needs of your community with the jobs that are available. So how can we bridge this gap? We can uncover talent, and that's what we do with Brightpath.
Awesome. And Chris, what does that look like from a student perspective? How are we implementing that here in Guilford County Schools?
So from a student perspective, my role in what I do is get them excited about knowing that there is a future out there for them for what they're naturally gifted at doing. You know, I always say the perfect marriage for a job is not something you have to do, but something you love to do that doesn't feel like a job, that you do naturally and are good at. So exposing our 7th graders in middle school with their assessment, and then as they get older, they graduate into the 10th grade or adult assessment in high school. And so we do those on those specific classes to really show where they start with their interests and their talents and where they will end up. And of course, hopefully save them some time, energy, money, stress in the process.
Can y'all talk a little bit about the assessment itself and how it differs from other tools that are out there in this space?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are the only company to have digitized an aptitude battery. So what that means is if you're using other products in the market, you're basically taking either an interest or a personality survey or questionnaire. We are the only company, as I mentioned, that digitized an aptitude battery. So when students are taking these brain games, they're actually taking psychometrically valid aptitude exercises. So what we're measuring is how they think, how they're naturally gifted, really uncovering that raw talent to show them that potential. And then the other place that makes us so very unique is just being this end-to-end solution so that you have everything you need in one place to guide that student from academics all the way to career.
In my experiences directly with the students, they get a chance to really see and have that question answer. That's why I'm good at XYZ, whether that's speaking in front of class all the time, whether that's using their hands. We've had several projects in the past where we have had students who can just naturally draw. And these are our future, architects, engineers, people who are designing the next city phases. So seeing that light bulb go off for them when they actually get a chance to understand why they do what they do with a purpose is just exciting. And I think YouScience is by far the best platform that I've ever been a part of. And I live by it daily. I love seeing my own results and understanding why I'm where I am. And it's a breath of fresh air getting understanding and clarity about your skills.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned your own results because every staff member at Shift Ed takes the YouScience assessment, and it is really cool to see those results. Chris, would you mind sharing from your results what surprised you?
What surprised me is the results of seeing other jobs and careers that I would have never thought about. I think everyone who knows me and talks to me knows I'm very caring, I'm very passionate, I'm a lot of empathy, and more importantly, want to see everyone succeed and be happy and an asset in this world. So with that came opportunities such as counseling, physical therapy, broadcasting, things that I would have never, ever thought about growing up. In contrast, I remember high school taking several of those other platforms, and just because I said I like to go outside or I love being outside, it suggested that I be a park ranger, which I have no desire to be. And I'm thankful for those who are in that field. But just me loving outdoors doesn't necessarily mean I want to work outdoors. And so when I got my results back, it just really showed that for one, I'm where I'm supposed to be, because this is the perfect marriage, working at Shift Ed with helping students and mentoring, but also the business side of things and helping our city and our workforce development grow as well.
Another thing I want to mention is in the assessment, they talk about aptitudes and they talk about interests. Amy, what do y'all mean by aptitudes and interests?
Yeah, that's a great question, Holly. So aptitudes are really your raw talent. We're measuring how your brain naturally works. And there's really no right or wrong. So if you think of, are you left-handed or are you right-handed? This is an example we give the students. Neither is right or wrong. However, let's say I was going to pursue a career, but that career would require me to write with my right hand. I'm left-handed. That would be really tough for me and tough for my brain. Could I overcome it? Possibly a little bit, but would it come naturally to me? No, because I'm left-handed. So we measure the kind of things about your brain that just really pulls out like what that raw talent is. Now, comparison to that is interest. We have used interest surveys since the 1970s. Everybody listening has probably taken one. They'll think it maybe was aptitudes, but it probably was interest. And the way that you know is it's a questionnaire. What do you think you're good at doing? What would you like to do? What are you interested in doing? And that's valid. The issue with it, though, is you get back what you've seen in life. You get back what you've exposed to. And our lenses are not very large, even as adults, depending on where we live in the country. So by bringing in measures of aptitudes, we can actually look at raw talent to say, Chris, to your point, here are all these careers that you naturally would be really good at doing, but maybe you've never heard of. So that interest would not align because you haven't heard of it, but yet you've got the raw talent and gifts to do them. So that's a little bit about what we do. We have a lot of data behind that too, comparing aptitudes to interest. We want to really align that. And so in the platform, we do have an interest survey. We do have a personality survey. We still ask those questions, but the foundation is in measuring aptitudes.
Perfect. And that transitions perfectly into our next question. So you mentioned earlier the skills gap and later about the exposure gap. Here at Shift Ed, we always refer to it as the career exposure gap. And that refers to the divide between industry needs, as you were saying, and students' chosen career pathways. And it has a lot to do with what students see in their lives. So YouScience has done a ton of research in this area. So can you tell us a little bit more about that research and what sort of gaps you guys see?
Yes, that's a great question. Absolutely. So annually, we put together a report. It's called the Student Ability Report, and it compares aptitude to interest in careers in the country. Interestingly enough, the last report was 1.6 million that have taken YouScience since 2020. And can you guess what that high interest was with our young people? You want to take some guesses?
Chris?
I'm putting them on the
I'm
spot.
going to say either business or computer, something dealing with computers.
Yeah, something technology, I would say.
Well, actually, it's the arts and media.
Really?
Arts and entertainment. It's probably the highest interest when you look at young people.
That makes
but
sense.
as well as teaching, law enforcement, and public safety, as well as psychology and counseling. So high interest is there. Do the aptitudes align? Not quite. But when we look at in-demand careers, so in-demand in North Carolina, in-demand throughout our country, careers in computers and technology, in health science, and advanced manufacturing, the aptitudes are off the chart. We've got the talent. The talent is there. We've got to tap into it. And that's what you can see in that one report. We've run these through the years. That's our most current one. But the aptitude and interest don't align because there hasn't been a lot of exposure. So that's why we love working with folks like Shift Ed and chambers and business and industry throughout the country to help us really bridge this gap and help schools to start bridging this gap in their community as well.
Definitely, and if I could just add, it's kind of like that student who, there's a couple examples. That student who said, I want to be a doctor, but every time they see blood, they throw up. So you're probably not going to want to be a surgeon. But they don't realize all the different positions that are within that doctor or that residencies that their skills and their natural talents can fit into. Another example is the athlete who swears they're going to be a professional athlete, doesn't necessarily have the full talent to get there, but still wants to do something or find something that's within that sport. So they don't realize about the sports marketing. They don't realize about the therapy and all of those 100 jobs that are on the sidelines that have nothing to do with actually carrying that football or shooting that basketball. Those are the light bulb moments that we try to expose these students to and give them hope that just because you may not make it to what you were either interested in or exposed to at an earlier age from maybe a family member, your talent says you could be any of these things if you just listen to it.
Yeah, I've got a great example too, actually a personal example for my daughter. She took YouScience back in 9th grade. Now she is creative, she's artsy, she thinks in 3D. That's something we measure. Can you manipulate things in your mind? I do not. She absolutely does. Now, a little bit of background with that. My husband is an educator, and I have a background as a counselor working in schools before I went into sales. So growing up, she always thought she'd be a teacher, which is a great profession. But if you think about it, that's what she had been most exposed to. She took YouScience, and it gave her all of these things that no one in our family has ever done, that she really didn't have a lot of exposure to. Careers like art director, multimedia artist, graphic designer. So that was back in 9th grade. Fast forward to her junior year in college where she's excelling in graphic design, something no one ever did, not much exposure to. But once she figured that out, it was to the moon for her, right? Like it is like the potential and talent matched together. It's a pretty incredible just story from my perspective as a parent.
Definitely.
That's really cool. Do you have any examples from Guilford County you want to share, Chris?
For me, I mean, everything that my principals used to try to get me to be or do, I always got the question of being admin, principal, assistant principal. I get along with all my students. I'm very leadership skills, etc. So it was confirming to see that was one of my options as far as that I had a high aptitude and interest for because of my desire to help people. So for me, it was confirmation on a lot of things that I had been told in on the outside circles and that I have seen inside. So it's I'm living my purpose as I sit here today.
Yeah, and maybe some things you didn't even know about yourself.
Definitely.
That's really cool. Well, one of the things I did want to point out too, I was looking at some of the data on the YouScience website earlier, and it does seem like there are differences and gaps in sort of historically under-resourced groups. So can you talk a little bit about that, Amy?
Yes, absolutely. So interestingly enough, when you look at the data, when we've mentioned this a little bit earlier too, the talent is there. So it's not a talent gap, it's an exposure gap. And then when you break that down and look at gender and ethnicity, you can really see that playing out. You can see the actual exposure gap playing out when you're just looking at interest. They're just getting back what they've seen, what they've heard. So the interest is all over the place, especially when you compare gender and ethnicity. But when we bring in measures of aptitudes, it is fascinating. Talent is equal. It equals out the playing field. If you want to guide your students toward equality when it comes to career recommendations, that's why YouScience exists, so that we can create that equality, so that every student, no matter what grade they had, their socioeconomic background, their ethnicity, their gender, that they can uncover and tap into that talent. And it is equal for each one of them.
And that's really important to us at ShiftEd too, with equity being one of our guiding principles, just making sure that we're closing those gaps. All right. Well, so students take this YouScience Aptitude and Career Discovery assessment and they get a lot of data. So what happens then? What should their next step be? Say I'm a parent and my child comes home and tells me about this exciting assessment they took. What should we be doing next?
Having conversations, fun conversations. If for me, my daughter will be taking it for the first time this year as a 7th grader. So I'm excited for that to happen this year. But for the next steps after you take your assessment is really starting to go through and look at what those results are. Hopefully you're starting to see that's why I love looking at 3D imaging, or that's why I like to go off by myself and read a book quietly, or just days off into the sky and just think of all these things that I could be and do. I'm a dreamer, right? Once you get that, that's where the door is open with the results in the platform, because then YouScience has done a phenomenal job of putting everything you need at your fingertips for the student and the parent. So they can go and actually find information, and I'm sure Amy will go into detail about that shortly, but just information about the college that offers that particular area of talent, or area of that career. They will go in and find out whether the careers require certifications. My student may not want to go to college. My student may just say, what do I need to do to get to that path that I'm trying to get to without spending $40,000 a year if I don't want to go to college? Maybe it's credentialing and certifications. This job only requires a 2-year degree. They're going to get everything they need to be successful on one site.
Absolutely. And then now with YouScience Brightpath, that is the full end-to-end package for us. So once they uncover this raw talent and aptitudes and their interest and personality, now they have a place where they can plan out, okay, what am I taking for the next 4 years in high school? What is that best fit pathway for me now and into the future, whether it's post-secondary or some specific training? But then also we want them to really understand that the knowledge and skills that they're gaining now in that specific course, that it does matter. And that is why we have certification exams. So that student can be certified in their specific course. And parents, what that actually means is it's an exam that they would take in the course so that they would have language. Here are the knowledge and skills I've mastered because I received the certificate. They can use that certificate for their future in their portfolio for connecting with local business and industry, and also for work-based experiences. So you can then manage and track all work-based experiences, whether it's an internship, a job shadow, career fairs, all through the Brightpath platform on into career and connecting with local business and industry. And so for any industry folks that are listening, we want you to be a part of this. Join our platform. It's very easy to do. Chris has that information. But what that student can then see is they have a future, not only academically, but directly into career, into working locally, because that's what we want, is to keep your talent local, but also for them to see that they match with local business and industry based on their aptitudes, their academics, their certifications, their work-based experiences. So that one complete platform. Because in the end, every student has the talent. We want them to understand that they have a future. And they have it here locally in Guilford County in the Triad as well.
And YouScience does a phenomenal job of actually making these certifications real. These are industry recognized certifications, so they carry weight. A lot of these certifications have students making more out of as soon as they get done walking across the stage in high school than you would going to a 4-year college. So here we preach, career college ready. There is no perfect pathway to get to your success. My pathway to get where I'm at may not be the same for this student, and it doesn't have to be. And we celebrate that. We just want to help you get there as seamless and less stress as possible, and hopefully have fun on the way.
That's great. Amy, are the certifications for any particular age group?
Wherever the information is taught. So it could
Okay.
go down into 7th and 8th grade. We have a lot of folks throughout the country that use our 21st Century Success Skills exams for soft skills, for higher ability skills. But yes, wherever it's taught, wherever that course is taught, we have over 200 industry recognized certification exams. And by the way, your local business and industry, when they register with YouScience, they mark, here are the certifications that matter to us. So there is that direct connection for that student with your local business and industry based on aptitudes, certifications, work-based experiences ties in there as well.
Okay, great. And Chris, to wrap up, tell us a little bit more about how YouScience Brightpath sort of fits into the Shift Ed education continuum and all the other workforce development efforts that you do on a daily basis.
Definitely. So with the programs that we have at Shift Ed, from everything with our SEL scholars to our HELPS program with tutoring down to elementary, our career and technical education focus in middle school and exposing these students to these opportunities, YouScience fits directly into how these students can get there. You know, when we talk about those students who want to go to college and may not have the financial means to do so, or may not know where to start to get there, that's where our SEO program comes in. So we may have that student who has the background for SEO. We can see that with their YouScience results and help get them there, and would be a great fit for that. For our mobile innovation lab that we rolled out this past summer, getting students exposed to STEM and you know, everything from science to technology to math, you name it. Even now, art, I think, has been thrown in there as well with the design and the artistic side of things. We're able to really go and find some of these students who have a desire for these specific areas and actually go to them and meet them where they are versus the barrier that are out there for some students who can't get to where we are. So everything about YouScience touches really everything that we do. And our goal is to definitely boldly, you know, accelerate our student potential. The students have the potential, the students have the talent. We're just helping them get there boldly.
Fantastic. Well, thank you both so much for being here today. Amy, if folks want to learn more about YouScience, where can they go to do that?
Yeah, thank you, Holly. It is youscience.com, and that's spelled YOUScience.com. Lots of great information, videos there for you. And by the way, if you're listening to this and you're struggling in career, go to youscience.com. You absolutely could purchase and take it for yourself. Even as an adult, it is valid for you.
And very helpful for adults as well, I might add.
Yes, it is.
If you want to find Chris's contact information or learn more about Shift Ed, visit our website at shifted.org. That's SHIFT-ED.org. Thank you and have a good day.